Hi, Tim2Wheels here, and on this how-to video, we're going to be installing the Rigid Industries dually auxiliary lights on the front of my KLR650. So before we get started with the unboxing and then the installation of the dually lights, I wanted to talk with you a little bit about my thought process and why I selected these lights. I wanted better lighting on the front of my bike for at night and when I'm off-road. And I knew I wanted LED lights because of the longevity and the low power draw. I looked around at everything from the cheaper Chinese knockoffs to the very high-end lighting systems that you can purchase for adventure motorcycling and off-road biking. I chose the Rigid Industries dually because it was a relatively small package, but yet it gave me enough light that I wanted. I thought about the small round lights, single LED lights, but I ended up going with the dually. And the dually, if you haven't seen it before, looks like this. And it is a 4 LED light array that's essentially in a nice compact 3-inch by 3-inch by 3-inch package, so a 3-inch square configuration. So a few of the features about the Rigid Industries lights that I really liked is first and foremost, they're designed, engineered, and assembled right here in the United States. Which appealed to me. It's got a high quality cast aluminum housing. It's got a durable polycarbonate lens on there to protect the light array. And additionally, you can buy a bunch of different easily snap-on covers in amber and clear and smoke, green, and various colors. These lights essentially come in 3 styles as far as the beam of light. They have a spot, which is the one that I chose. They have a flood, and then they also have a diffused beam. Now, Rigid sells the spot and the flood in kits. They come with 2 lights and all the wiring harness and everything that you need to install. I mentioned that I wanted LEDs for 2 reasons. One was durability, and then the other was for low power draw. On the power side of things, these lights, the spots, only pull 1.1 amps per light. So 2.2 amps for the set of lights is all it's pulling to power these things. And that low amp draw is generating a total of 1,568 lumens. I'll put up a chart here that shows you some more details. And you can also go to Rigid Industries' website for all the information. There's a link below for that. So that 1.1 amps per light gives you a peak beam intensity of 64,600 candle power, or CD, which is also known as candela or candle power. As far as mounting goes, there's a couple of different ways that you can mount these things. A lot of people will mount them and clamp them to their crash bars. Some will clamp them to the forks. Since my headlight is fixed in a fairing, it doesn't move left to right when I turn the handlebars. So I wanted these auxiliary lights to be able to turn with the handlebars, so that if I was sitting stationary and I wanted to shine a beam of light to the left or right of the trail or the road to light it up, I could do so. So for that reason, I'm going to mount mine to the forks. Now, I've opted to fabricate my own bracket. There are brackets and mounts out there on the market that you can purchase for yourself. I chose to take a sheet of plate aluminum and again fabricate my own, and I'll show you how I did that in more detail. So enough talk, let's go ahead and unbox the lights and take a look at what we get in the dually kit. For unboxing these, packaged by Abraham. Good job, Abraham. Now, we can pull out one of the lights here and show you. So these are fairly substantial lights, and they have, I can see right off the bat, very nice plugs. The wiring is not stiff or cheap. Let's go ahead and take this one out of the protective plastic bag. And as you can see, you have the 4 LEDs in each one, and these are substantial. Again, this is an aluminum housing. This is not a plastic housing like you'll see on some cheaper lights or some of the Chinese knockoffs. good wiring. They are waterproof, of course. Mounting holes here for brackets, which are included. So let's go ahead and set this one out. Pull the other one out of its protective bag. Same thing. So we get 2 of the light units and pull that out of the box. Get some nice pack of wiring. And now these lights are not exclusive to motorcycle use, of course. They are, you see these installed on other off-road vehicles as well. Let's go ahead and open up this because I want to show you a good look at what you get in this. So in the wiring pack, as you can see, the wiring harness is very nice. It's got waterproof or water-resistant boots, connectors that when the lights plug in, they make a nice rubber seal to avoid any weather from getting in there. So very good rubber boot around that. Very nice. Of course, it's got the inline fuse, etc. I probably won't need near this much wiring being on a motorcycle, of course, but it's a lot of wire. Also, you get an included waterproof switch that's really made for a panel mount. Again, I think they're thinking more of an automotive solution on this. On a bike, if you had a panel that you wanted to drill a hole in and pop this in, reach up, turn it, there's really no on-off. It looks like it might be illuminated once it's on. But I think and I could drill a hole in the plastic or in the fairing to put this on, but then I'd have to reach up and turn the lights on and off, take my hands off the handlebar. Most of these uses are going to be off-road. So what I'm opting to do is through Amazon, actually, I ordered, it's a very similar switch. As you can see, it's got the rubber boot. It does have the 0 and the 1. It is illuminated, and it's a machined aluminum mount here, a housing. And of course, there's a bottom half that I have off right now. But I'm considering putting this or just to the right of my left control column or module, or just on the other side of the mirror. And all I would have to do is be able to take my hand over slightly and turn the lights on and off. And I'll put a link in the description below to this if you think you would like to try that. So here is one of the metal brackets, the other mounting hardware. And then of course you get a packet with some information, with some various stickers, quite a few stickers, decals, etc. So we'll put that right here. I'm going to unbox or unpack one of these brackets so you can get a closer look at it. They are sturdy. It comes with the hardware. I won't actually unpack that. It looks to be good quality hardware. And the mounting brackets, as you can see, are nice and sturdy steel. And then they would, of course, mount. So then you could have a pivot to adjust them up and down. Even if you needed to mount them on the reverse, you still have room for that to set up in there. So it looks like it would have a good tilt and various mounting options available. And again, it sets on the inside there. For right now, I'm extremely happy with the quality, the apparent quality of these lights, and they have a lot of really good reviews. Next step is to let's get started installing these on the bike. So now we have all of our wiring in place for the auxiliary lights. Just wanted to show you a little bit. This is, of course, after everything is installed and nice and neat. I have the power source coming up on the left side of the frame and then tucking under. I didn't want to put any more wiring over on the left side of the frame. It's pretty full as it is. So I put everything over here on the right side of the frame. I just wanted to show you. So everything is coming in. Since I have the remote switch, my remote switch didn't have heavy enough wiring to just wire directly in the circuit. So what I'm doing here is I've installed a relay. And I have it labeled here, auxiliary light relay, in case I ever sell the bike or if someone else works on it, they'll know what this is since it's not factory. But at any rate, what the relay does is it allows me to have the remote switch installed up on the handlebars and then all the wiring in place down here. So again, I have my power source coming in. This white wire is the actual switch wire that activates the relay. I have it coming in, tucked in, and going back up here. And then these two wires here, as you can see, I solder all of my connections and use heat shrink tubing. I prefer that. This runs up to the pigtail. So I have the two pigtails considerably shorter than what comes with the light kit. And I have them in shrink wrap tubing to protect them and also to keep them together, make everything nice and neat. So these two pigtails will run up here, and I'll tuck them down under the fairing, and then when we install the lights, we'll be able to plug those in right down here, and I'll coil up my excess cabling and tuck everything in nice and neat with cable ties. Okay, so before we actually mount the lights on the bike, I wanted to show you the bracket that I made. I had a piece of aluminum plate here. It's 0.19 inches, which works out to be right at 3/16 inch thick. That's pretty heavy duty stuff, but I wanted it to be a sturdy bracket for the lights. This is 6061 T6 aluminum. I had this for another project, ordered it from Online Metals. It's a great place to get metal of all types for your project. So basically what it is, I cut out this T-shape bracket, and I have a diagram that I made up that I will have a link below where you can go to my website and download this as a PDF if you want to. It's full scale, so you can just cut this out, lay it over your sheet aluminum, and cut it out to fit. The holes here are pretty exact. I drilled these out to 11/32 in order to give us a little bit of wiggle room for this bolt that goes into the fork clamp to have a little bit of wiggle room so that you could get it lined up. The bolts, however, for your actual lights, you can put those wherever you want, depending upon the lights that you have. These dually lights are a little bigger. So I actually put mine basically 3/4 in from the front and 3/4 of an inch in from the edge to get the lights out as far as they could be. Again, this drawing is there if you want to download it and use it for yours. The bracket, once I cut it out, I just hit it with some black enamel paint. It's actually that hammer tone finish, but to give it a good durable finish. And you'll notice I put a bit of a bend in it as well, and that's because this is going to mount to the bike. It kind of points at an upward angle, and with about a 20-degree bend roughly, it gets it more level to the ground so that the lights don't hit and the bolts don't hit the upper fairing under the headlight of the bike as it's turning. Now on the diagram you'll see this is 10 inches wide. Which is about as wide as I could go because the lights, they're going to hang out just a little bit off. I had a bit of a problem with my first drawing for the bracket. I only made it 8 inches wide. And the problem was that the lights would come down and hit my front fender that was on the bike when the forks went all the way down. So anyway, this one alleviates that problem, and I'll show you a picture here. It got the lights out far enough to where they don't impact the lights. One other thing to note is the original hardware that came with the dually, I ended up cutting off just about a 1/4 of an inch maybe of the stainless bolts so that they wouldn't impact the fairing as well as they stick up through here. The original bolts are long enough so that you can mount through some pretty thick stuff, so I just took a little bit of that off to alleviate rubbing or touching the upper fairing. So now I have the lights, the bracket and the lights mounted on the bike, and just want to show you a couple of things. First of all, I have the bike up on a motorcycle jack, which helps getting the front wheel off the ground, because then you can pivot the front wheel as you need it to work with it. So here what I want to show you is I have the bracket mounted to the fork, and then I've gone ahead and put the bolts in, the hardware for this light, and have it mounted sturdy. I used blue Loctite on all of the bolts just as a good habit on a bike to always use Loctite. But I wanted to show you an example here. The brackets have a slot so you can slide them this way back and forth. And also the way that these mounts work is that the lights have some play on the bracket whether they can go adjust up and down. So it's really up to you if you want to bring it all the way up or let them hang down or somewhere in the middle. As you can see on this bracket, I've got it tightened up just a little bit and I left just a little bit of a gap, just kind of lower it down. Now, the reason I want to show you the hardware on the bolts here, the reason that I cut off the tip of the bolts is so that they would be pretty much flush with the top of the nut when tightened. And the reason for that is as I turn, you'll see I wanted to leave some clearance so that it doesn't hit the underneath of the top fairing here. The other thing you want to check is to make sure that as you turn, you can go fully either way without impacting your fairings. Now, I don't know whether you've ever noticed it or not, but on a KLR, the fairings don't stick out the same. The right side of the bike, which is over here, is actually closer in. And you'll notice that even on the crash bars, you'll see there's a gap difference. The reason for that is the radiator is on the left side of the bike, and so you have more clearance. So it's usually not a problem on this left side of the motorcycle. You can see I have plenty of room. It's not going to impact the fairing at all. On this other side, and let me angle it over here a little bit. On this right side, it's still not impacting. It's close, but I wanted to light as far out as I possibly could without impacting the fairing when the handlebars are at full turn. So that's one precaution. If you're going to mount them to where they turn with your handlebars, just to make sure that they're not going to impact anything on either side. Now, as I mentioned earlier, my first pass at making a bracket or measuring for a bracket, I had the lights in about 1 inch on either side. And the problem is that when the forks compressed all the way, since I have my fender mounted down here on my Eagle mic fork brace, the lights were hitting the fender. So by extending this out, this again is 10 inches across, and I've got my bolt holes in 1/4 of an inch on either side. But it gives me enough clearance so now that when the forks compress, they're going to clear my front fender. So take that into account if you're going to do your own bracket, fabricate it, just to make sure. But I'm very happy overall with the stability of this mounting bracket. It's very, very sturdy and for these lights. Okay, so I want to show you a little bit up close here. Taking a close look here, you'll see that the bolts that are used are really for the original fender mounting location. I'm just reusing the factory bolts. I have the fender lowered so it's down on the tire. It's riding on the Eagle mic. It's mounted to the Eagle mic fork brace that I have installed. So I just reuse the original bolt locations. Now, if you have your fender mounted up top, you can still do this. It's just that you would put this plate up where it's at and then put your fender underneath and mount it, and then let the front fender stick out between the two lights. You can also make smaller brackets and mount to the fork clamp bolts. Turn it around here where you can see the fork clamp bolts up here. I didn't like that idea, and then you could have the light sticking out or in front. I just didn't like having to, I would have needed longer bolts here and redo all that. I don't like anything messing with those fork clamps, so I would rather just bolt it up under here where it's not attaching to anything critical. Now, additionally, the SW Motec crash bars have a built-in bracket down here to mount lights to. However, I didn't like the idea of putting them there. For one thing, the Rigid Industries lights would have stuck out a little bit, and I was concerned that but when you lay the bike over, that those lights would be impacted and potentially damaged. Additionally, with the KLR being a thumper, there's a lot of vibration that you would have picked up on this. So for that reason, I chose to make a bracket and mount it where I did. So now the only thing left is to snug these up just enough. I can still tilt them, and then we'll take it for a test ride and let you see how they work. Starting out, here's on the back road with just the regular headlight on low beam, and here is with the dualies on. See, it makes quite a difference. Now, filming on a GoPro here, this is a GoPro Hero 3. it doesn't do it justice between what I could really see at night versus what the camera was picking up. But even though the camera doesn't do it justice, you can see there's a huge difference. Most notably, the light is much whiter and brighter than a regular light bulb, and it just really essentially makes it daylight on the road, so you can see every detail, every piece of debris, everything that's on the road, which is great for safety. So as I continue along here on just these roads, I'll be turning the lights off and on just to give you a comparison with and without. This is with the high beam on, and now with the dualies LED lights on. So even with the high beam of the bike, you can see it makes a difference. So now it's back on low beam, and we'll ride along here. It's only about a 5-minute ride, the footage, and I'll be cutting between scenes. Now taking off again, going down this road, there's a bridge just up ahead, and just on the other side of the bridge there was an icy spot that I was able to see better with these lights on. Right there I spot it and I'm able to just miss it. Ice and motorcycles are a bad mix. It was just a good example of how well these lights can help you see better. Now I have them adjusted down quite a bit because I was really concerned about oncoming traffic, and when I use these on the road, I definitely don't want to blind cars or any other motorists coming at me. So here in this first section, I was always careful to turn down or turn off the LED lights when I saw a car coming. I didn't want to risk being too bright and blinding oncoming traffic. So here's a car, and I'm going to shut these off. And then we'll turn them back on. You can see there's quite a difference. Again, I have them set lower because when I'm riding 2-up, it's going to cause the bike to set a little lower in the back and therefore shine the lights up a little bit higher. But even with this, it gives me a much improved visibility. I'm able to see further than what the camera is showing. Also, the reflectivity of the signs, road signs, is greatly improved. Now here I'm pulling out onto a busier road with more traffic, and so I'm pretty confident that the lights are set to where they're not going to blind oncoming traffic by now, so I decided to do a little test here and see. So I'm going to leave them on and see if oncoming cars flash their lights at me. That would be a good indication that they're too bright. I need to dim them or lower them or turn them off. As you can see on this a little bit better, wider road here, it's lighting up nicely. You can see the trees off to the side. I purposely have them kind of set in on the left so that they don't shine over into the oncoming lane. If I get off road, I can always readjust them as needed. So here's my first car, and they didn't blink their lights, flash their lights, so that's a pretty good sign that the lights aren't too bright. So let's try another. And again, they didn't flash their lights. So I'm feeling pretty good that I'm not blinding oncoming traffic as a high beam would. So here comes a few more cars. We'll see how that works. And there was 3, and so far there's 5 cars, and none of them have flashed their lights. So there's a difference with them all. And back on. Again, just a tremendous difference. In person, it's really impressive. So there's a couple more vehicles, 3 more, and again, none of those flashed their lights at me as though it was too bright. Well, there you have it. Now you've seen how I installed these lights and what they look like while out at night on a ride. It does give you a pretty good comparison between the headlight, the stock headlight on the bike, plus with the auxiliary lights. However, Riding firsthand, I'm sure most of you know that the video footage doesn't truly replicate the conditions, especially at night and with lights. But I wanted to give you some kind of a comparison for those of you who wanted to see that. And I hope the installation video gave you an understanding of just how easy it is to install these lights. I'm very happy with the quality of the kit, with the hardware, all stainless, with the manufacturing quality of the lights themselves. The brightness is phenomenal, the clarity. And again, so far I'm very happy. Of course, only time will tell, but so far I think it's going to serve the purpose that I wanted. As always, thanks for watching. This is Tim Two Wheels, and that's how I did it.